Hi everyone, I'm Sudeepan and I'm the co-founder and CEO at Chainrisk. At Chainrisk, we are preventing DeFi's biggest economic exploits. So to set some context for this video, this is regarding our collaboration with Angle Labs. Our collaboration with Angle Labs was regarding analyzing economic risks of their borrowing module and suggest parameter recommendations, if any. So now let's go ahead and see the state of the DeFi security industry. If we see then around 46.3% of exploits which are happening are technical exploits, and a huge chunk of it, around 53% of it, are economic exploits, which is huge. And all of this is currently highly underserved, which is clearly visible through the amount of attacks which are happening on the lending pools, the DEXs, and the yield aggregators. And all of these have together cumulatively led to a loss of $3.5 billion in the last couple of years. So why is this even happening? The number one reason is, of course, lack of sophisticated tooling, which is causing economic security to be not accessible to the larger audience, which means that less than 3% of the DeFi protocols at this moment have access to economic security. Uh, Moreover, the tools which are currently there, the average time taken to model agent-based simulations on those tools is 7 days. And the average latency of running on-chain simulations on those tools is 20 plus minutes, which is a huge headache for any person who's running simulations or complex simulations on top of these tools. So now let us look at the Chainrisk and Angle Labs collaboration. Our major work was on stress testing their borrowing module. Joint focus has been on understanding the risk of events like Black Thursday on the protocol, varying protocol parameters like debt ceiling, LTV, etc. Also digging deeper into the liquidation spirals and the bad debt which the protocol accrues under any market conditions. So now let's see first what the Chainrisk Cloud platform offers to you. We offer you a very user-friendly GUI for all the DeFi protocols. We have a customized Rust-based EVM, which is blazingly fast, on top of which you are running all these stress testing simulations. We have a protocol agnostic library of reusable and configurable scripts. We give you bespoke visualization tools within the platform so that you can create and build your own visualizations. We also give you an inbuilt block explorer and transaction tracer so that you can trace all the transactions to see what actually happened in the simulation. We also give you out of the box Monte Carlo simulation so that you can run tens of thousands of simulations and come at parameter recommendations. Uh, so yeah, now if we look at the simulation overview, then Angle it is a decentralized over collateralized stablecoin protocol. It has its own stablecoin AGUR, which is pegged to €1. It's over collateralized, so at any given point of time, for one AGUR minted, there is more than €1 which is backing it. Also, if we see at the liquidation process, then Angle allows for variable liquidation amounts. Which means that during the liquidation, the fraction of debt that can be paid is not fixed. On top of that, the discounts are paid according to the Dutch auction mechanism, which minimizes the discount for liquidators while making sure that they can still be profitable. The liquidation module is very, very important for the entire health of AGUR and Angle as a whole. And so stress testing it is of utmost importance. So now if we look at the scenario which we're trying to run over here, if we look at the Black Thursday scenario, then in the actual Black Thursday scenario, the price of Ethereum dropped by 43% over 14 hours, which is around 3,700 blocks. What we are trying to do is replicate the simulation over here. What we are doing is we are actually dipping down the price of WST ETH over here, which is one of the biggest collaterals of Angle Protocol and AGUR. And we are dipping that down to 43% over 2,500 blocks. The agents which we're using here are two agents. Liquidation agent, which is liquidating the vaults if the health factor goes below 1. Then we also have a supply agent, which is supplying some collateral to balance the amount of liquidations which are happening. We also have 2 to 3 scenario scripts. Number one is the Black Thursday scenario, which is dropping the price of WST by 43%. And we're also varying the debt ceiling and collateral factor through 2 other scripts to see what's actually happening by varying these parameters in the Black Thursday scenario. And we're also using a assertion. So assertion is just like the assertions we have in discrete mathematics. So we are actually checking the correctness of the price drop over here to the price drop assertion. Finally, we have the contracts. Now you do not have control over the Chainlink's Oracle infrastructure. So what you can do over here is you can simply create a custom Oracle contract which drops the price of Ethereum over 43%. And that's what we are doing over here. We are creating custom spell of an Oracle contract on Angle, which is dropping its price by a certain amount. So now, what are we actually trying to observe in this simulation? We are actually trying to observe a lot of parameters. Number one would be health factor. It is, of course, liquidation profit, the discounts which are getting paid, the bad debt which the protocol accrues, and of course, the maximum stablecoin to repay and under liquidation scenarios. So now if we see the scenario as a whole and the flow of it, then a developer first creates GA scripts to drop the price of ETH by 43%, which gets deployed on the Chainrisk Cloud sandbox. A number of alts, of course, becomes under collateralized. The health factor goes below 1, triggering liquidations and Dutch auctions, which hits the on-chain environment. Our API then fetches all the simulation data and monitors the risk parameters throughout the simulation. And then we create custom graphs for you according to your observers in our inbuilt analytics platform. All of this happening on the Chainrisk Cloud user interface. So now if we go ahead in the Chainrisk Cloud simulation platform, so we've landed already over here. So we've created a completely modularized library of agent scenarios, assertions, observers, and contracts. So what we can do over here is we have created agents. So an agent is basically users who are emulating a particular protocol or are participating in a particular protocol. So you can directly see an agent over here. You can directly see its code, which is there. You can directly edit an agent as well. So at any given point of time, if you're an XYZ protocol, you can edit this agent according to your needs. We've also created scenarios which are conditions under which a particular simulation is happening. For example, in Black Thursday, the price of Ethereum drops by 43%. We're also changing parameters in these scenario scripts. Let's say if we drop the debt ceiling by 50%, what are the effects which are happening in the Black Thursday scenario? You can also create and edit a scenario in the same way, and the same goes for all the other scripts. We also have assertions, which are basically, of course, discrete mathematical statements where we have a particular action getting true or not. It's a Boolean value. Then we have observers, which are monitoring the state of blockchain and creating custom graphs for you. Then we have contracts, which are deploying custom spells and custom oracles so that you can run multiple simulations. Now, if we go through the simulation platform and actually analyze it, then let's create up a simulation. So creating a simulation is so easy on the Chainrisk Cloud simulation platform. You can just simply name a simulation. You can create its description according to you as you want. Let's run it across 1,000 blocks. Let's have a starting block of, okay, cool. That looks like a cool number. Then let's select agents. Let's select an assertion. Let's select the price drop assertion. Let's select this scenario. So let's select the liquidation discount scenario, which is a more modified version or a much higher version of the Black Thursday scenario with some other parameters in place. Then let's select the 50% debt ceiling in this case, and let's pick up 75% collateral factor to see what's actually happening. Then let's go through the observers platform and let's see what's actually happening over here. So you can select any number of observers which you want to create any number of graphs which you want. And of course, if you want to add some new observers, just go ahead to the observer section and create some observers for yourself and use it. Then, of course, we are deploying the Angle contract, which is the custom Oracle contract, which is dropping the price of WST by 43%. Let's create the simulation. So now if we refresh it, then of course we have the simulation already created over here. Then let's hit the run button. So as long as it runs, let me run you through one of the previously completed simulations. So if we go through this simulation, then we can clearly see the configuration of the simulation over here. So if you click at it, then you can directly see the agent's metadata and the code which is of the agent which has been used over here. So now let's, same happens for the assertions, same happens for the other scenarios which are there. Now let's see the analytics platform part of it. So you can see that the collateral amount is decreasing, of course, because liquidations are happening. We can see a clear distinguishing in the health factor. Of course, the health factor is increasing over here because a certain liquidation is happening. And we have the other interesting graphs as well. But the most interesting graph, of course, is the bad debt. The protocol is not accruing any bad debt at all, which means that under current market conditions, the protocol is safe from any Black Thursday scenarios. It looks so, or it appears so. But now let's dive into the other simulations as well to arrive at a given conclusion before looking at only one simulation. So we've already created some other simulations over here as well. But before that, let's also jump into the block explorer, which we have in place. So you can trace any transaction. So we have the latest blocks which have been mined, the latest transactions which are there. Now, if you go to the transaction, you can go to the contract which we have interacted with. And the interesting part of it is that you can see the code of the contract over here, which is getting interacted. So let me pick up this one over here. Yeah, so we've seen the contracts which are getting interacted over here, which have once have failed, which ones have succeeded, all the transactions, the code of the contract which is getting interacted with, of course, and of course the events as well, which are there, which have been hit in this. So we have seen multiple liquidate events getting hit in this contract. So now let's deep dive into multiple simulations and arrive at a conclusion. So we are now seeing a 50% debt ceiling in this particular simulation, which means that the simulation is reducing the debt ceiling to 50%. And now if we see the graph of the liquidation which is happening, so if we see the liquidation count, the first liquidation is happening somewhere around a block height of 7484. And now if we see a similar simulation where the debt ceiling has been reduced to 75%, and we see the liquidation count graph, it's at the same location, which means that debt ceiling does not have any effect on the liquidation process at this point, because the debts which have been currently taken against the WST is very less. So even if you reduce the debt ceiling by 50%, it won't affect the entire figure as a whole and the entire simulation as a whole. And we can also see that there's no bad debt here as well, which means that the protocol is not accruing bad debt. Now let's also come down to changing the collateral factor. So we have a 50% collateral factor in this simulation, and if we go to this tab, then we have a 75% collateral factor over here. So what's actually changing in these simulations, right? So we can clearly see the liquidator profit over here. So in case of the simulation where there's a 50% collateral factor, there's a higher liquidator profit and more number of liquidations. If we see the total number of liquidations, then it's much more as compared to the simulation where we have a 75% collateral factor. We'll come to a conclusion for it, why this is actually happening and why is this pretty interesting. So now let's come back again to the highlights of the simulations which we have run. So under the current market conditions, we can clearly say that debt ceiling has no effect on the liquidation process, of course, which we saw. There's no bad debt accrued in the protocol right now under current market conditions, since the vaults are, of course, getting sufficiently liquidated. A higher collateral factor provides a larger buffer for borrowers, and hence we were seeing that the likelihood of liquidations due to price fluctuations were lesser if the collateral factor was higher. And of course, we are able to create on-chain simulations with mainnet forks over here with minimal assumptions. We're using a protocol agnostic library of reusable and configurable scripts, which is making this platform very robust, that you can use all of these scripts in all the simulations which you want. And of course, you can also edit it according to the protocol which you have. So I've clearly explained all of these stuff in the platform. So what's in it for the Angle DAO and investors, right? So how do we protect Angle? We help you do automated integration testing of auctions. Auctions is, of course, one of the most important features, as I said, to Angle's stability. We check the severe risk implications as collateral auctions were not closed and Angle is left with bad debt in volatile markets. Also, Chainrisk as a whole provides a simulation environment for them, other co-units in the community, to feel confident in the execution in volatile markets. So what's in it for investors? Assessing and monitoring the risk of their positions under volatile market conditions. Apart from that, diversifying their risk across multiple positions in the protocol. Chainrisk also provides something called economic security alerts, so that investors can react to their positions in case of any major collapse. Now let's come down to the statistical assumptions which we have. So since this was granular testing, we have had some assumptions. We took an isolated ETH price drop, that is the WST ETH price drop occurs independently without affecting other asset prices within the simulation. There's no slippage at this point. We have assumed that no changes in gas price or cost for transactions within the simulation. We have also taken that no arbitrages are happening at this given point of time. But the point is that all of these statistical assumptions which we have taken get removed when we are running multiple mathematical Monte Carlo simulations to come at the appropriate parameter recommendation for your protocol. So while running granular testing, you can of course take up statistical assumptions and then run and see whether liquidations are happening properly or not, and whether your protocol is accruing bad debt under conditions or not. So if you are a lending borrowing pool or or a restaking pool or a pub dex or any other DeFi protocol, which is either in on their test net and want to test out their mechanism design, or is already on mainnet and wants to get live parameter recommendations, then Chainrisk Cloud is the platform for you. So don't let your risk program take a setback. Measure, manage, and mitigate with Chainrisk.